Hello, it's Casey again, here on my channel, The Astrology, back with another video. Um, Today I am going to be doing a video on Saturn entering Pisces on March the 8th, 2023. I couldn't stop thinking about Saturn moving into Pisces, and there were just a lot of things that started to bubble up that I had to get out on Saturn moving into Pisces. Right now, Saturn is in the later degrees of Aquarius. I believe we're at the 27th degree right now. And you see, Aquarius is an air sign. Even though they're the water bearer, they're an air sign. They're not a creature of the sea. Instead, they're the water itself. You know, and Pisces is all the creatures in the sea. Uh, so what's going on is that there's the vibration that's already in the water collectively from Aquarius is already like Saturn's already knows who knows the truth and who doesn't when it's in Aquarius. And now that it's entering Pisces, Pisces is the two fish swimming in opposite directions. Um, which way is Pisces going to swim now that Saturn is entering Pisces? Because Saturn dishes out punishment or reward. It rules time and reality, karma. It makes sure that everything is correct and true and right. And we tend to judge Saturn unfairly because of that, because we just end up falling short of its lesson. And then we judge it and, get mad and give it a bad rep. But, you can't have rewards without Saturn. Saturn is a character builder. It builds character. To where your character needs to be structured. And being that it's been in Aquarius for about 2.5 or so years, and now that it's in its later degrees, Saturn's finally made the decision. Like the cosmic energy now has kind of made the decision of who knows the truth and which creature in the sea is going to swim in what direction. And Pisces, it governs the masses. Often fish swim in masses. They swim together in masses. There's all sorts of different fish swimming together in masses. Hence, kind of maybe why the world is now so divided. There's just a bunch of masses of people in their own divided ways. Swimming in all sorts of different directions, and some are swimming together and some aren't. So, with that said, it kind of seems like maybe now that, the age of Aquarius is starting to pick up some momentum, although we're still technically in the age of Pisces, because we still see Pisces at the vernal equinox from the sidereal standpoint. It kind of makes me think that the age of Pisces is up for a reality check. Now that the truth is, coming out with the age of Aquarius, and it's picking up its momentum. But we're still in the age of Pisces. They're still technically in that age. The age of Aquarius just isn't going to stop building more and more momentum as we get closer to it. So, the age of Pisces actually started around the 2,000 or so years ago, where it's not kind of around the same time Christianity started, or, where, the energy of Christ. The fish with Jesus lives in it, that's kind of symbolic of, Christ's time during, was happening during the age of Pisces, where Jesus lives. That was like the embodiment, because Pisces is the very last sign. It's the very end stage of the zodiac. They feel and know, have been through everything, and it's just a matter of how they're going to go about it, because it depends on whether they're going to be strong or weak, if they can handle, having the burden of all the weight on their shoulders, feeling the weight of the world. So I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a time where it's time, Saturn, where the energy of Christ comes back. I was thinking also that towards the end of my first video, I was saying something about how culture, like, it's not a matter of nurture or nature, it's a matter of culture and nature. It's just that nurture is kind of in the middle of culture and nature. It just depends whether we're being more nurtured through culture or more nurtured through nature. We often allow culture to dictate our nature. I was saying that people respond more to their environment than themselves. And I think that actually fits quite well, because with Saturn entering Pisces, the quote for Pisces is "I believe," and then the quote for Aquarius is "I know." So we're going from "I know" to "I believe" with Saturn energy, which governs time, reality, karma, responsibility, discipline, structure, character building, lessons, obstacles, delays, adversities, punishment, restrictions, but also experience, wisdom, and rewards. And I think that our beliefs might be challenged, or what we believe. We need to figure out, do we choose what we believe, or do we believe what we choose? And what I mean by that is that sometimes people believe in things that don't believe in them. It's just like it's a cultured or environmental thing that's taught, and I just, I wonder, are people going to be able to, deal with this energy of knowing that what they believed in all their life might actually be wrong, or have at least a few things wrong with it? Are people gonna be able to realize what they have been believing is maybe not true? It might be hard, and sometimes people don't always necessarily understand the power of, when they believe, whether they choose what they believe or believe what we choose. Sometimes people don't really even understand that they have a choice, or they don't understand their options. Like, I'm going to give you an example. Like, America, and say, I live in America, I'm in California, they're the state lines of California and the lines of America, and like the country line of America and whatnot, it doesn't exist, actually. Essentially, it doesn't exist anywhere in nature. In fact, countries, states, governments, even money, even science, even religion, they're actually ideas and not facts. They're ideas, essentially, in their raw form. And this is why I think that reality is going to get really weird during Saturn in Pisces. Like, it's going to strip the layer of raw reality, and we're going to find out there's no boundaries. Saturn rules boundaries, but with Pisces, there's no boundaries. So it's kind of weird. And like Saturn, this is like, what are we going to be integrating, or are we going to be confused? Because Saturn is actually a energy that wants you to be strict and stern and disciplined and strong. But Pisces, they want to be, not always, they want to kind of live in this fairy tale world sometimes where they want to escape reality, not embrace reality. Because sometimes the pains of the world is just too much for them. They're the most, perhaps the most sensitive and intuitive psychic sign, but they tend to be on the sensory overload where they can't digest everything properly, clearly, and they look for escapes like through drugs and alcohol and whatnot. They tend to live, with rose-colored glasses on and paint their own fairy tale way of life often, and sweep important things under the rug if they're too uncomfortable to grasp or take in. But what I'm saying is it's going to be kind of hard to understand what reality is because Saturn wants to discipline and be strict and correct at all costs, and Pisces, yeah, they want to be compassionate and empathetic, and be everyone's special friend that you can cry to, or they can be all ears with, and so it's going to be kind of hard to how to integrate this energy because, in one hand, you may want to be more strict and crack the whip a little bit, but on the other hand, is it asking you to be more strict and disciplined towards being compassionate and empathetic? Like, you may not know what to do. Like, maybe you're in a situation with somebody that you want to tell them things, but you feel bad for them, and yet it's you. But at the same time, you kind of see what they're doing wrong, but then yet at the same time, you understand why they're doing it. It's kind of like that kind of thing. Like, you might feel kind of confused. It's going to be hard to integrate this energy without being confused. And like I said, you may either want to escape, or if you integrate, you will embrace reality. If you're left confused, you're usually going to escape it. But if we integrate, we can embrace the reality in the lesson. Which the lesson is, it's Saturn's teaching us through Pisces, the planet of boundaries, that it has none. That there never, and in fact, that there never was. This wraps up a 30-year karmic natural cycle, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and Saturn has now transited the zodiac, gone through another trip around the zodiac. So, and not to mention that Saturn is the last planet that's naked, that can be seen with a naked eye. That it goes after Saturn. There's the constellations. There's the zodiac and the constellations, and then outside of that is Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which is why we call them outer planets. They don't work in our foundational, framework of traditional astrology. This is the 7 planets: the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, are the basis, along with you use the North Node and the South Node and the angles, of course. I also like to use a lot of fortune, a lot of spirit in the natal chart. But after Saturn, this is Saturn rules time. It's the time barrier. The rings of Saturn represent the limitations, the restrictions, the boundaries. And that's what it's telling us. It's within that enclosed system, Saturn and the constellations, all the planets and luminaries, orbiting those constellations, and outside of that is Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. That's why they're more at effect, not at cause. But a lot of modern astrologers say it's they put too much emphasis on the outer planets. They're really just at effect of what we're doing with the 7 planets and the other factors in the chart. They're more at cause. So you think about that. Saturn is the very last planet, where time is up, time frames, and Pisces is the very last sign. This is the end of an era. This is the end of a karmic cycle, natural karmic cycle. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be a very it's going to be a strange world. There's talks about the AI, artificial intelligence, really starting to take over. I expect that there's going to be a lot more, probably a lot more poverty and a lot more just famine and stuff like that. But I also see it being potentially for all spiritual, like all the like spiritual things actually being able to be solidified and structured. And like you may, like going back to the beliefs, like we may actually see that, or you may find out that like what you didn't think was true ended up being true after all, and things that were true that you thought were true actually aren't true. It's gonna be very weird how to navigate reality with Saturn and Pisces, because it's very important to understand. While Saturn's in Pisces, is not to fight yourself, and because that's the main factor here is that Pisces is their own worst enemy. They self-inflict things on themselves. As they look for escape routes, and fighting them, knowing that they're fighting a war with themselves, which is what everything is in their life for, is really what the ultimate problem is during this time. So try not to doubt yourself. Try not to fight. Believe in yourself. Remember, Pisces, I believe. The first things that you got to do is you got to believe in yourself. I think that there are 3 attributes that I try to hold dear to somebody that, if you hold these 3 attributes, you're basically good. I think that you have a foundation for having a great personality that can go far and be successful. Is you have to be strong, you have to be smart, and you have to be kind. And if you have those 3 attributes in your personality, then you can go very far and you can handle anything. And I aspire to be all 3 as much as I possibly can. And I think Saturn in Pisces is really a time to really aspire to try to be that way. But also knowing choice is very important, like I said. We don't always realize that, like California, America, like they're just land masses. They're just an idea. Just like government's just a group of people that are in high security buildings writing legislation saying that it means something, and we believe it. It's no different than having like an imaginary friend, and that person really believes this person's there, and it's not there. It's just an entity. It's an entity that we create, that we support. We have to understand what reality really is in its raw form, and what reality really is in its raw, rock-bound form is that there's only land, water, and people, and animals and plants, and etc. Like, that's really all there is. Everything else that we do and support is an idea, not a fact. We treat it as a fact because we believe it's a fact, but it's not a fact. It's an idea. We've just created the entity of it being. We've created it as a fact in an entity way, and where now it's something that we spiritually have created for ourselves. So we need to understand, but you have to be strong to navigate through this energy and really see through it, to understand it and get through it out, where you don't, lose your mind. Because I feel like people might be going through some rabbit holes down when Saturn's in Pisces for the next, almost 3 years. I believe it enters Aries February of 2023. And that's not a very good placement for Saturn. It's in its fall when Saturn is in Aries. And those of you who have Saturn in Aries, it's hard to understand and assimilate experience, to learn lessons, to actually not repeat the same mistakes over and over. Um, and yeah, so I mean, I've done a few charts. I mean, I looked at charts. People born from like 1967 to 1969, 1995 to 97 or 98 even. And I have noticed some of the people that I've looked at with Saturn and Aries, they do not assimilate their experience and their lessons and mistakes very well. They often are incoherent to them. So this is why it's very important to figure out, what Saturn is doing in Pisces and what its lesson is. Because by the time we get to Saturn in Aries, when it's debilitated in its fall, and it rules the self, and Aries rules Mars, god of war, you know, it might, I don't know, we might have to fight each other. We might have to be in a war. Hopefully not. But yeah, don't fight yourself. No choice. Know your options. Know that, don't just think that, don't let people convince you that you don't have a choice and that you don't have power. Because Pisces is a very easily led sign. If they're strong, like the strong Pisces is a whale, where they're their own fish in the sea, not just another fish swimming along with the masses, copying masses, The strong Piscean is very spiritual and grounded in their spirituality and their good qualities. And they're like, the whale, another big fish in the sea that's on their own, doing their own thing. And it's also important to read between the lines. Like, when I was watching the Super Bowl a little bit, and a lot of people think that the games are rigged, and I don't put anything past that. That wouldn't surprise me. I thought it was a bad call at the end of the game with the flag, the penalty, and I was thinking, I didn't think about it till afterwards, but I a lot of they say that that the Super Bowl gives you little subliminal messages on what team they're going for, who's going to win, or whatnot. And it's kind of funny that Rihanna was dressed in red, and the dancers are dressed in white, which are the Kansas City Chiefs colors. So I don't know if that was like a subliminal message saying oh, the Chiefs are going to win, and this is how we want it to go. But reading between the lines is important, because if you can now catch on to that and prepare for it before it happens, and you walk into the game, and then you're watching the halftime show, and they ask you for a bet, maybe you can bet on the team that you're seeing clues for, if there is that going on, but I think reading between the lines is very important during Saturn and Pisces, and it's just going to be a strange world. I feel like things are going to be very, very strange and hard to navigate through, but actually very beautiful and blissful if you go through it and see it. It's very much for those people who have eyes to see and ears to hear. I think it's going to be it's very much should be easier for those people. However, I won't say it'd be a walk in the park. It's not going to be a walk in the park for anybody, because Saturn always test you. It always has to keep kind of pushing you or challenging you and testing you, just to make sure you're still on track, still on your game, still doing things right. Not falling back, not being lazy, still staying disciplined. So, yeah, I think that it's going to be a strange world, a strange time, but it could be a very beautiful time. You will probably see the gap being divided even further along. Like we say, the two fish swimming in opposite directions, which is Pisces. Masses are going to be swimming one way, and masses will be swimming the other way. But beliefs are going to be challenged, and don't let people convince you that you don't have a choice, or that that you don't see reality in its raw form, its true objective truth. Like there's only land, water, and people. That's a fact. What we live in, we treat these ideas like facts, like I mentioned earlier. So like when your boss is telling you, giving you a hard time when you're the one doing everything, and um, and someone else you're doing the work at the expense of someone else slacking off, and he's still coming down on you because he knows he can depend on you. Um, be strong. Tell him the truth. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. Say, and they say your boss says, "Oh, you know what? Quit complaining. Life's not fair. Don't complain about him." Throw it right back and say, "You know what? Life's not fair because of people like you treating me like this." That's the kind of thing, because Pisces is also a very submissive sign. Saturn only wants correctness and truth. Submission doesn't always fall into that. Submission into spirituality and letting the ego go, and for a higher purpose and a higher consciousness, yes, which is Pisces is capable of, but not submitting just because they feel bad, or they're weak and they don't feel like they have the power to do it, or they don't want to go through the effort or the conflict. So you got to be strong. Know you're bound. Know that there are no boundaries. Like those boundaries that they're putting up in you are just an illusion. So Saturn in Pisces is going to be a very interesting time. It can go in many different directions, but it's going to be along the basis of what Saturn and Pisces represent, and how you can deal with that, together, is really going to be key in going forward. And hopefully we can figure out this matrix, because the matrix may unplug from us, whether we do it ourselves or it gets unplugged from us. But if we're too codependent on the matrix, where's that going to leave those people? So, something to think about. Anyway, I think that concludes for this one. If you want to send me an email at kccosmo9@gmail.com, whether or not you want a natal chart done, or transits, or any other type of chart or reading, let me know. I'll be glad to do that for you. And yeah, for all you out there, take care. But don't just take care, give care too. I'll see you next time.